All right. So we know that we have our sword, our blades already separated and divided, so they're fine. I can turn this off too, so I don't have to keep seeing the cubes all around it. This is the area that's important, right? So, and I've already done the due diligence to stitch these all or separate them all out. Now the question is, do I want to do that? Yeah, there's some things I could have done before I did the symmetry. And let me show you something else before we get too much deeper into this. I will collapse this down to an editable poly. I'll go back to the front view. Let me turn that texture off. There. Okay. So I have this. I'm going to go back to my left, and there's some things we could have done before we stitched it together, so we're going to do that. But I do like doing it this way because it shows you that it's okay to come back in and unsymmetry something. Oops. Unsymmetry something and resymmetry as many times as you need. It doesn't hurt the object. You're going to have to do this a lot of cases. There's really no way around it. Plus, you never know if you're going to get somebody else's piece. So, in this case, I'm going to go to the front view, make sure I have the front, turn it sideways, delete. Okay, so now I've got it just half again. Now I have half the polys to work with, because what I'm going to do now is stitch a bunch of stuff together, meaning that some pieces can be attached to each other. They don't have to be all those separate little pieces. Where the big thing about these tools is you want to have as least amount of as islands as you can and the least amount of distortion, so it's a big fight, right? But let's at least get the stuff that makes sense together. Like, okay, so this piece right here, if I turn this back on, makes sense that it would be attached probably to one of these edges here. So let me grab this edge and show you what you see. You see this blue line? That means that the polygons I've selected, one of the sides of them is connected to this edge. So if I move this over here, move these out of the way anyway. If I move these over here and I put them up together and then I grab this one, the easiest way to tell which side is, if it's the right side you're looking at, is that I can see right here this edge is blue, and when I select on this one, this edge is blue. So those two are the ones that connect. So what I can do is go to the 2, which is the edge mode, double click on this edge, and it goes all the way around that edge like you would think, and then I can right click and say stitch selected. And I don't like that. So what I'll do in this case is to start with, well, let's try that again. Let's do the stitch selected, which is also, I think the custom one is here. And then let's do relax on it. And we can see what it looks like here. And it looks pretty good. The reason you want to do it on some of these things is because this edge being congruent with this edge is important. If you have pieces that are separate, like if this is if I was making this in real world, this would be a separate piece that I put on top of it, so the metal grain would not match from this object to this object necessarily. So I don't need to, like, for example, attach this one and this one, because these will probably be different metal grains. Think of it as wood. If wood is grain is one direction. Okay, but I might as well just do this bottom one too. So I'm going to say stitch selected. Here, let me go to 2. Stitch selected. Ooh, what are you grabbing? Should be 3. Oh, this is all distorted. Oh goodness. Okay, so what happened is somewhere along the line these got attached together, and I just need to unattach them. And this is what I mean about the tediousness of it. But there's really no dance around it. It's just something you got to deal with. So I'll do my lightning bolt real quick and move it back out of the way. And then if I come back up to here and I look at this edge, here, go to this edge here. Now when I stitch selected, it'll stitch that together, and then I can take this and say that, which I'm not super crazy about what it's doing here. You're killing me. Okay. So let me turn on my relax shortcut here. Try and get it to sit a little bit better. There. That's why I use that shortcut, among other reasons. It doesn't make it straight, but it makes it, now it's a lot cleaner, and it looks like they're pretty good. You know, I can mess with the verts on this, for example, to straighten it out if I want. And I could play with it, and you can drive yourself crazy doing it, but there's so little distortion in this case that it's not a huge deal. Okay, for me. Again, you're gonna have some bosses that want everything perfect, and the only way to get everything perfect is to have everything separate, and we aren't gonna do that because that costs more for the engine. So that's there. If I wanted to, I could attach parts of this, and I don't have to attach the whole thing, but I'm not even gonna deal with that. So we're gonna move that and say done and done. We're going to grab this one and say done and done, move it up here. I'm going to grab these pieces, and I may not even worry about these pieces being attached to this. I guess I could. It'd just make my life a little bit easier. So let's do it. What the heck? 2, double click, stitch, selected. What did you stitch? Say okay. Oh, wow, that's interesting. Okay, so one of the things you might want to do before you do this is take these objects and face them in the right direction. Okay, because what it's doing is it's not moving the position of the object, it's just putting it where it is. So if I take this and I say rotate, rotate, so now it's facing the right direction, and then I check this edge, turn off that, and check this edge, and this edge. Oh wow, they're inverted. So I'm going to take this and flip it. Now, this edge, yeah. So I'll double click this and say stitch selected. And that's a little bit better, and then I can grab the whole thing and say relax, and it comes out pretty straight, pretty good. And then the next one is here. Here's the problem you're going to have. And so what you might want to do is just do a couple of the parts. So we'll go to 2, turn off this, take this edge and stitch selected. So I just go to there. Put these guys out of the way. This edge and stitch selected. This edge and this edge, well, let's do it all the way around that sucker and say stitch selected. And then we'll grab the whole thing and try and see what relax will do to it. Yeah, that's not too bad. Okay, so we've got that done. This can go up here. And then, so the next thing is this stuff, and we got to decide what we want to do repetitively and what we don't. In this case, I'm thinking these pieces, come on, this is so much fun. We might just want to stitch to this one, so maybe easy to do. Where is it? There it is. So it's this piece. Stitch selected. I'm not worried about that overlap there. This piece, stitch selected. this piece. Stitch selected. You'll notice that whatever I stitch to selected, it moves it to its position. And as we said before, it needs to be in the same direction usually. Sometimes, I mean, usually it doesn't, but for whatever reason it was being that way with those guys. I don't think you can do... Yeah, it'll ignore the second one, or the first one. Stitch selected, stitch selected. And then stitch selected. So I've got this all done. There. Now the gem in this. So what I'm probably going to do actually is take these guys. I don't know. Interesting. I just want this center part here. I want to try something and say stitch selected. Yep. So what it did is it took these and stitched them to this. So that probably is the easiest way to do it. And I'm guessing that since we can't do them across several things, the joy of it, this is what I mean about the tediousness, just do this. Stitch selected, I think is this one. Remember, I'm not moving any polygons inside of here. This is all just a virtual laying out of the interior. Yeah, I know those are a little distorted when I first did that, but if you hadn't done that, it'd have been fine. It would have distorted the other side, so for right now that's fine. And we'll try a relax after the fact. And one more. That, okay, so that's done. Leaves the gems, I don't mind the gems being separate, and then this stuff. So, this stuff is these pieces. And right now, those are fine. This piece is fine. So everything I have right here is as stitches it's going to be. Okay, so now we're going to put it back together with our symmetry.